So the piece I decided to look at was Chopin's Prelude number 6, Opus 28. Now, Opus 28 is made up of 24 different preludes, each of which is in a different key. So Chopin used all 12 different keys, and both in major and in minor. And he actually wrote this work in part to emulate Bach and his well-tempered clavier, which Chopin admired Bach a lot. Now, this particular piece is pretty short, but it's one of my favorite Chopin preludes. It starts off pretty simple in the tonic chord of B minor, and then it gets more emotional with the chromatic chords and pitches and more intricate lines. So first, let's take a listen. So what you just heard was the first 8 bars of this piece. As you can see, it's in B minor, and it's very slow as written at the top of the piece. The left hand forms the outline of the harmonies along with holding the melodic line, while the right hand mainly plays chord tones to fill in the rest of the chord, and these notes either stay on the same pitch or they move up or down by a third. And we keep this for several bars until we reach bars 6, 7, and 8, where you can see there's a big change there with lots of intricate chords. They're in lots of different inversions. We have lots of non-chord tones than just the few neighbor tones and passing tones we saw in the first few bars. And we also have lots of secondary dominants. And of these NCTs, we have repeated use of C sharp, E, and F sharp, and these are important notes for F sharp major, which is really important to the piece. It's the dominant of B minor. And so, like the NCT C sharp's the dominant of F sharp is, of course, the tonic, and then E would be the lower seventh of F sharp. Another characteristic part of this piece is that we have these arching melodies. If you look in the left-hand part, you'll see, even from the very beginning, we start on the low B, and we rise up to a high D above the staff, and then we go back down to the low C. And this pattern you can see throughout, even in the bottom staff here, where it arches longer for about 4 bars until it comes back down. And so the overarching theme of this piece is we start in minor 1, in B minor, and then we get to, by the end of the section, we get to a major 5, the dominant of B minor. Except we take lots of detours on the way there with the secondary dominant chords, like the 2 half diminished 4/2 of 5, the 5/6 5 of 5, and then we have a few 7 fully diminished 7s, which serve the same purpose as 5. We also have a minor 1 in there, and a minor 1/6/4, which is commonly before 5. So I did a little bit of research on this piece, and what I found interesting is that it was given a few different nicknames based on its characteristics by a few different people. And so Hans von Bülow, who was a German conductor, virtuoso pianist, and composer, gave it the nickname Tolling Bells. And so this was in part named Tolling Bells, likely because it was Chopin requested it to be played at his funeral. But it's very easy to see that we have a bell toll-like sound even from the very beginning of the piece. So if we look at the very first bar, we see in the top part of the right hand, we see an accent and then a staccato reminiscent of a bell. And then we have these repeated Bs, which then switch to repeated Ds of, a bell ringing the same note back and forth. It's also similar with the quarter notes we have in the lower parts of the right hand. So these bell tolls are also getting progressively higher as we repeat the 1 chords, which I thought was interesting. And then another thing we have reminiscent of tolling bells is the echoing of parts, in particular in bar 8, which is the last bar I have on the screen here. So in that bar, on the 3rd beat, the top line of the right hand plays D, C sharp, and then immediately on the next beat, the left hand gets that to lead into the next phrase. So the other nickname, which was given by Alfred Cortot, who was a French pianist and conductor, was homesickness. And so this piece begins in the home key of B minor with four full bars of the tonic chord, although it is in first inversion than the fourth bar. And then we have a brief moment of a more like positive chord with the major six, the G major chord in bar 5, as it is a major chord in a minor key. And then we tonicize 5, and then later we eventually, in the next phrase, we move into the Neapolitan 6 of B minor, but we eventually end the piece in B minor again. So we start off in the home key and we end in the home key, but throughout the piece we kind of lose where we are tonally, and we're tonicizing lots of other things like the dominant and then the Neapolitan 6 of B minor. So I'm sure that's where the homesickness nickname comes in. Overall, though, I think the beauty of this piece comes from how we begin in the home key of B minor, and we have this sense of normalcy as he sticks with the minor 1 chord for 4 full bars, but then he switches into the major 6. So we're getting kind of a different angle here with a more like a happier sounding chord. And then it would make sense to go somewhere to like 5, but instead of just letting us go to 5 soon, he takes a lot of time going through the secondary dominant chords and the 7 full diminished 7 and throwing a couple other minor 1 chords in there to almost delay a sense of a cadence. And I think the way he does that is really cool. So I hope you guys like this piece. Thank you.